The cold void of space stretched endlessly in every direction, but inside a small, damaged Zarelian vessel, panic and fear filled every corner. The ship's oxygen levels were dangerously low. The control panels flickered weakly, showing damage reports that told the Zarelians exactly what they already knew. They were not going to last much longer. Vale, the captain of the ship, clutched his side where a deep wound bled slowly. His breathing was uneven, but he couldn't afford to stop. His people, what was left of them, needed him. He turned to look at the crew. Once their kind had lived in great cities, spread across dozens of planets. Now only a handful remained, hiding in the shadows of the galaxy, running from the unstoppable force that had destroyed their world. The Karth Dominion had hunted them for years. No one knew why the Dominion had targeted the Zarelians, but the reason didn't matter anymore. What mattered was survival, and right now, their survival was slipping away. A young Zarelian, barely past childhood, looked up from the failing console. "Captain, they are gaining on us." Vale swallowed hard. He had expected this, but it didn't make it any easier to hear. "How many ships?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "4, the young Zarelian replied. "Heavy-class warships. We can't outrun them." Vale closed his eyes for a moment. There was no way out. Their engines were failing. Their weapons were useless. He thought about surrendering, but he knew what happened to those who surrendered to the Dominion. There was no mercy. Then a voice spoke up from the corner of the control room. "We have one option left," said Merrick, the ship's navigator. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his desperation. Vale turned toward him. "What option?" Merrick took a deep breath. "We send a distress signal to Earth." Silence filled the ship. The Zarelians had heard rumors about Earth, about the humans who lived there. The Dominion laughed at the idea of them being a true power in the galaxy. The humans had no great empire, no vast armies. But there were stories of human defiance, of their strange ability to fight against impossible odds. Vale had never seen a human before. He had no idea if the stories were true. But right now, they had no other choice. "Do it," he said. Merrick's fingers moved over the console, activating the emergency beacon. A message was sent across the void, aimed at the third planet of the Sol system. "To the people of Earth, we are the last of our kind. We are hunted. We are dying. If you can hear this, please, help us." The message repeated over and over as their ship drifted closer to its destruction. Outside, the Karth Dominion warships closed in, their weapons powered up, ready to finish off the last of the Zarelians. And then something unexpected happened. A new signal appeared on the scanners. A ship had entered the system, but not a Dominion ship. It was something else, something fast, something powerful. The humans had heard the call. And now, the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to be human. The Zarelian ship drifted through the void, its systems barely holding together. The Dominion warships surrounded them, moving like hungry predators, ready to finish their hunt. Vale stood at the control panel, watching the sensors. His heart pounded in his chest. He had sent the distress call, but deep inside, he feared there would be no answer. Then the alarms blared. Something was approaching. Fast. Merrick's voice was shaky as he read the data. "Unknown ship detected. Speed is impossible." Vale's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. "Show me." The display flickered. The ship was small, far smaller than the massive Dominion warships, but it moved with a purpose, cutting through space like a blade. It wasn't a Zarelian ship. It wasn't Dominion. It was human. The Karth Dominion ships hesitated. The Zarelians were nothing to them, weak creatures, prey meant to be wiped out. But this was different. The humans had no empire, no fleets that rivaled the great galactic powers. Yet this lone ship moved as if it feared nothing. The lead Dominion commander, Overlord Jaxus, appeared on the Zarelians' communication screen. His reptilian face curled into a sneer. Your pathetic distress call was pointless, Captain Vale. One human ship will not save you. Vale had no answer. He didn't know if the humans could save them. He didn't even know why they had come. The human ship slowed, positioning itself between the Dominion warships and the damaged Xyrelian vessel. The silence in the void felt heavy, filled with unspoken tension. Then, a new voice crackled through the communication channels, a deep, calm voice that carried no fear. This is Captain Ethan Cole of the UNSV Warhammer. You have one chance to leave. Laughter erupted from the Dominion fleet. Overlord Jaxus leaned forward, his sharp teeth glinting. Human, you are alone. You have no army, no war fleet. You dare threaten us. The human captain's voice remained steady. I do not make threats. I give warnings. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Jaxus gave the order. Destroy them. The Dominion warships opened fire. Beams of deadly energy streaked toward the human vessel. Vale braced himself. The Warhammer was small. There was no way it could survive a direct assault from 4 warships. But then, something impossible happened. The human ship moved. It didn't evade like other ships did, calculating escape vectors and defensive positions. It attacked. With a single precise movement, the Warhammer shot forward, slipping between the blasts like a ghost. Its engines roared as it twisted and turned, moving at speeds that should have been impossible. Then it fired back. A single shot erupted from its weapons, a projectile, not an energy beam. The Dominion ships relied on energy shields, built to withstand plasma and laser fire. But the human weapon tore through the first warship as if its defenses were made of paper. The Xyrelians stared in shock. The Warhammer did not slow down. It cut through the battlefield like a predator among prey. Within moments, another Dominion ship was destroyed. Panic spread through the Dominion fleet. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be weak. Their ships were supposed to be outdated, inferior. Overlord Jaxus slammed his fist on the control panel. Impossible. It's just one ship. Captain Cole's voice came through once more. I warned you. The 3rd Dominion ship tried to retreat, but it was too late. The Warhammer hunted it down, its weapons finding weak spots in the armor with terrifying accuracy. Overlord Jaxus felt something unfamiliar. Fear. He had underestimated the humans. His warship was the last one remaining. He could already hear his officers panicking, demanding a retreat. His claws clenched. He had fought many enemies, but he had never seen anything fight like this. Captain Cole spoke again, his voice cold. Tell the Dominion what happened here today. Tell them what happens when they hunt the wrong prey. Jaxus knew he had no choice. He ordered the retreat. The mighty Karth Dominion had come to exterminate the Xyrelians. Instead, they had fled in terror from a single human warship. As his ship jumped into hyperspace, Jaxus knew one thing. This would not be the last time the Dominion crossed paths with humanity. And next time, they would not make the mistake of underestimating them. The Warhammer hovered in the empty void, its hull barely scratched despite facing 4 Dominion warships. Inside the Xyrelian ship, Vale and Merrick stood frozen, their minds struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Humans were not the most advanced species. They didn't control vast galactic empires. They didn't have fleets that stretched across the stars like the Dominion or the Varine. And yet, one human warship had torn through the mighty Karth Dominion as if it were a mere nuisance. The communication panel crackled. Captain Ethan Cole's voice was calm, controlled. Xyrelian vessel, do you copy? Vale swallowed, his hands trembling as he pressed the button. Ah yes, we copy. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign. Xyrelians had not felt safe in decades. The Dominion had hunted them for years, wiping out their colonies, killing their leaders, burning their cities to the ground. And yet today, a single human ship had done what no Xyrelian war fleet had ever been able to do. Merrick stepped forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Why did you help us? There was a pause. Then Cole answered, because you called for help. Vale exchanged glances with Merrick. No species in the galaxy operated like this. Every empire, every fleet, every military force fought for power, territory, resources. No one risked their lives just because someone sent a distress signal. But humans, they didn't follow the rules of the galaxy. Prepare to dock, Captain Cole said. We'll patch up your ship and talk in person. The communication cut off. Vale exhaled slowly, still struggling to believe what was happening. Moments later, the Warhammer's docking clamps connected to the Xyrelian ship. A hatch opened, and for the first time, they saw the humans. Captain Ethan Cole stepped forward, wearing a reinforced combat suit, his movements calm but precise. His eyes were sharp, scanning his surroundings with a focus that made Vale feel like he was the one being evaluated. Behind him, a team of human soldiers followed, each one moving like seasoned warriors, alert, steady, confident. Vale's throat felt dry. He had seen Dominion soldiers before, towering figures in gleaming armor, carrying weapons designed for extermination. But these humans, they carried themselves differently. Merrick spoke first. You fought the Dominion like it was nothing. Cole's expression didn't change. They underestimated us. Vale's mind raced. The Dominion has war fleets, entire armadas. If they return with more ships, how do you plan to fight them? For the first time, Captain Cole smiled. It wasn't an arrogant grin. It wasn't the smug look of someone who thought they were invincible. It was the quiet, confident smile of a man who had seen far worse than the Dominion. They can send as many ships as they want, Cole said. The thing about humans is, we don't scare easy. The Xyrelians exchanged nervous glances. The Dominion was an empire of terror. They ruled by fear. And yet, these humans spoke about them as if they were just another enemy in a long list of foes. Merrick stepped forward, hesitation in his voice. You fight like you've done this before. But the galaxy doesn't fear humans. No one talks about your war fleets. Your technology is supposed to be outdated. So tell me, Captain Cole, if humans aren't supposed to be a threat, why do you fight like you've been doing this for centuries? The soldiers behind Cole didn't react. They didn't look surprised by the question. In fact, they looked like they had expected it. Cole took a slow breath. Then he spoke. Because we have been. Vale and Merrick frowned. But the Dominion. The Dominion, Cole scoffed. We've seen worse than them. The galaxy keeps its wars clean, controlled. Empires conquer for resources, planets surrender to avoid extinction. But humans, we didn't have the luxury of clean wars. We fought over survival, over hatred, over things that didn't make sense. We didn't just battle enemies. His gaze darkened. We battled each other. Vale felt a chill run down his spine. Merrick took a step back. You mean, humans fought their own kind? Cole nodded. For thousands of years, the Xyrelians stood in stunned silence. Wars between species were common. But war between the same species, that was unheard of. No empire, no species, no civilization fought itself for thousands of years and survived. Cole continued, his voice steady. You ask why we don't fear the Dominion. It's because we've seen worse. We've fought wars where millions died in a single day. We built weapons that could wipe out planets long before we even reached the stars. We've faced enemies that didn't care about survival, that didn't stop even when their own worlds burned. He met Vale's gaze, and we survived all of it. The Xyrelians had no words. For years, they had begged the galactic powers for help. No one had come. No one had cared. But these humans, they weren't like the others. They didn't just fight for power. They didn't fight for resources. They fought because it was in their blood. Vale exhaled. Captain Cole, what happens if the Dominion declares war on your people? Cole's expression didn't change, but when he answered, his voice carried absolute certainty. They won't be the first. And for the first time in his life, Vale felt something he had never expected to feel again: hope. The Zarelians had spent years running, hiding, and surviving. Their species had been deemed insignificant, not worth protecting, not strong enough to resist. But now, for the first time, they stood beside a force that might be even more terrifying than the Dominion. Inside the Warhammer's command center, Vale and Merrick sat in silence as Captain Cole and his officers reviewed tactical data. Holographic displays showed Dominion fleet movements, estimated response times, and planetary defense weaknesses. The humans were planning, not fleeing, not negotiating, planning. Vale still couldn't wrap his mind around it. "You're going to fight them." Cole didn't even glance up from the hologram. "No, we're going to win." Merrick exhaled sharply. "You don't understand. The Dominion controls half the galactic core. Their fleets are endless. They have subjugated entire species with barely any resistance. You can't just—" "I understand perfectly," Cole interrupted, his voice firm. "I fought tyrants before. They all make the same mistake." Vale frowned. "And what mistake is that?" Cole finally looked at him. His eyes weren't filled with arrogance or blind confidence. They were cold, calculating. "They assume fear is enough to keep them safe." The words hit harder than Vale expected. The Dominion did rule by fear. They conquered through psychological warfare as much as military strength. They bombed planets, executed leaders, and destroyed entire bloodlines to prove a point. It always worked. Until now. Merrick still looked unconvinced. "We're grateful for your help, but if you stand against them, they won't stop until—" "We know." Cole's voice was almost amused. "They'll come at us with everything they have, and we'll break them." The Zarelians exchanged worried glances. This was madness. Then the alarm blared. A human officer snapped to attention. "Captain, Dominion warships inbound. 2 heavy cruisers and a command battleship." Vale's blood turned to ice. "They found us already." Cole simply straightened. "They're faster than I expected." "Good." "Good?" Merrick leaned forward. "This is your chance to run. They don't know about the Warhammer's capabilities yet. If you escape now, you can." Cole gave him a look that shut him up instantly. "You think we're running?" The officer at the console spoke. Dominion fleet broadcasting a message. Cole nodded. "Let's hear it." A deep mechanical voice filled the command center. "Unknown human vessel. You have interfered with a sanctioned extermination operation. Surrender immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare for boarding." Vale shivered. The cold efficiency in the Dominion commander's voice was the same tone that had declared the execution of his homeworld. Everyone expected Cole to respond with diplomacy, to stall, to negotiate. Instead, he smiled. "Open a channel," he ordered. The officer obeyed, and Cole leaned forward. His voice was calm, almost casual. "This is Captain Ethan Cole of the HFY Warhammer. We don't surrender." A pause. Then the Dominion commander replied, "You misunderstand, human. This is not a choice." Cole's smirk widened. "You're right. It isn't." Then he cut the channel. Vale's breath caught. "What are you doing?" Cole turned to his weapons officer. "Arm railguns. Fire on my mark." Merrick stood up. "Are you insane? They outnumber you 3-1. Cole chuckled. "That's better odds than usual." Vale couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You're taunting them." Cole glanced at him. "I'm teaching them." Then the Warhammer attacked first. With terrifying speed, the ship's forward cannons roared to life. A Dominion heavy cruiser, still moving into position, took a direct hit to its engine core. The explosion was instant, consuming half the ship before its shields could fully activate. The command center erupted into action. Officers relayed damage reports, tactical adjustments, and enemy maneuvers. Cole, however, remained perfectly calm. "Target the command ship," he ordered. The Dominion battleship returned fire, its plasma weapons scorching space where the Warhammer had been just seconds ago. The human ship moved unpredictably, evading as if it knew exactly where the shots would land before they were fired. Another volley from the Warhammer's railguns shredded through the Dominion's second heavy cruiser. In less than 30 seconds, 2 of the enemy's warships were gone. The battleship hesitated, and that was the moment Cole had been waiting for. "Full charge on main cannon," he ordered. "Aim for their bridge." The crew obeyed. A blinding pulse of energy surged through the ship's hull as the Warhammer unleashed its most powerful weapon. The Dominion command battleship never saw it coming. A single shot. That was all it took. The impact ripped through the warship's reinforced shields and obliterated its command deck. Silence filled the Warhammer's bridge. Then the enemy ship stopped moving. Merrick and Vale stared at the display, their minds unable to process what they had just witnessed. 3 Dominion warships. Gone. A fleet that should have taken hours to defeat had been annihilated in minutes. Vale slowly turned to Cole. "How?" The human captain folded his arms. "Fear only works if your enemy lets it." The Zarelians had never seen the Dominion hesitate before. But now, the remaining warships didn't advance. They were afraid. For the first time in history, the Dominion was afraid. Cole stepped forward. "Open a channel to the remaining ships." The officer complied. Cole leaned closer to the screen, his voice carrying deadly certainty. "This is your only warning. Tell the Dominion High Command that humanity is watching. Next time, we won't leave survivors." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Dominion ships jumped away. They had fled. The great and terrifying Dominion Empire had run from a single human warship. Vale swallowed hard. What happens now? Cole turned to him, his eyes filled with something Vale had never seen before, something that made his stomach turn. "This was just the beginning," Cole said. "The Dominion thought they were the hunters." He stepped forward, his voice low. "They're about to learn what it means to be hunted." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Dominion had suffered its first real defeat. 3 warships lost, a command battleship destroyed, survivors fleeing in disgrace, and all of it at the hands of a single human warship. For the Zarelians, it was unbelievable. Their entire species had been running from the Dominion for years, hiding in the ruins of forgotten worlds, scavenging what little they could to survive. They had begged for help before, pleaded with the Galactic Council, sought refuge with so-called allies, and had been met with nothing but silence. But now, standing aboard the UHS Warhammer, Vale and Merrick had witnessed something no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. The Dominion retreating, but something about it felt wrong. "Why did they run?" Merrick asked quietly. He and Vale stood near the observation deck, looking out at the void where the battle had taken place. The Dominion doesn't flee. They don't retreat. Even if they take losses, they always come back with overwhelming force. Vale said nothing. He had been thinking the same thing. Captain Cole had shattered their expectations, destroyed their assumptions, but was it truly over? A voice interrupted their thoughts. "You're both asking the wrong question." They turned to see Cole himself stepping onto the deck, arms crossed. His expression was unreadable, but there was something unsettling in his eyes. Merrick frowned. "What do you mean?" Cole leaned against the railing, gazing into the vast emptiness of space. The Dominion never backs down, no matter how many ships they lose. They control half the galaxy through fear and force. So ask yourself this. He turned to them, his voice low. Why would they leave now? A chill ran down Vale's spine. They should have fought until the last ship, Merrick admitted. Unless they weren't retreating at all, Vale realized. His voice was barely a whisper. They were calling for reinforcements. The weight of the realization sank in. The Dominion had taken a step back, not out of fear, but to prepare for something worse. Cole gave a small, grim smile. Now you're getting it. An alarm blared. Cole turned sharply as one of his officers' voices crackled over the comms. "Captain." Long-range sensors picking up multiple warp signatures. Dozens. No, hundreds. Dominion fleet inbound. Vale and Merrick felt their hearts stop. "They're coming back," Merrick breathed. "With everything they have." Cole didn't even flinch. "Good." Merrick stared. "How is this good? That's a full battle fleet. You may have taken down a few warships, but there's no way the Warhammer can survive an entire armada." Cole smirked. "That's where you're wrong." He turned toward the command deck. "All hands, battle stations. It's time to show the Dominion what war really means." The Warhammer's crew moved with terrifying efficiency. Weapons systems were primed, defensive shields powered up, and the ship's engines roared as it adjusted its position. Every officer on the bridge wore the same expression: calm, focused, ready. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't blind confidence. It was certainty. For the first time, Vale understood why the Dominion feared humanity. It wasn't their weapons. It wasn't their technology. It was their mindset. They didn't see an impossible battle. They saw a challenge to overcome. Multiple warp signatures incoming. An officer called. "They're deploying." "Wait, they're bringing an Exterminator-class dreadnought." Vale felt sick. That's a planet killer." Merrick clenched his fists. That thing could wipe out an entire world in hours. The view screen flickered, and a new voice filled the command deck, one colder than the void itself. "Humans." The Dominion commander's face appeared. A towering reptilian figure clad in dark armor, his eyes burning with calculated hatred. "You have overstepped your place in this galaxy. You were given mercy once before. This time, we will burn your name from history." Cole stepped forward, his expression unchanging. "Funny. I was about to say the same thing to you." The commander sneered. "You are alone, outnumbered, outgunned. Your destruction is inevitable. Surrender now, and I will grant you a swift death." Cole chuckled. Actually chuckled. "That's cute. You think I need reinforcements?" Vale blinked. "Wait, what?" Before anyone could question further, another alarm blared. "Captain." An officer shouted. New ships appearing on sensors. Dozens. No, hundreds. Merrick froze. "Are they Dominion?" The officer stared at his screen, his mouth falling open in disbelief. "No," he whispered. "They're human." The Dominion commander's sneer vanished, his expression twisting into confusion. "Impossible." Cole's smirk deepened. "You really thought we were alone." And then space erupted. The united human fleet arrived in force. Hundreds of warships, from nimble corvettes to massive dreadnoughts, blinked into existence like avenging ghosts. Their hulls bore battle scars, their weapons gleamed in the starlight, and their presence sent a clear, undeniable message. Humanity was not alone. They had never been alone. The Dominion commander's face darkened. "What is this?" Cole folded his arms. This is the part where you learn what happens when you cornered humanity." Vale couldn't breathe. The Zarellians had spent years thinking they were alone in their suffering, that no one would ever stand against the Dominion. But now he was watching history change before his eyes. The Warhammer's engines roared as Cole gave the final order. "All ships, attack." And the battle began. The silence before the storm lasted only seconds. Then, chaos erupted. The united human fleet unleashed hell. From every direction, warships opened fire. Plasma rounds, missile barrages, and cutting-edge railgun slugs tore through space with terrifying precision. The Dominion fleet had expected a simple battle, a one-sided slaughter. Instead, they were met with something else entirely. They were met with humanity. The UHS Warhammer led the charge. Captain Cole stood firm on the bridge, his expression cold and unreadable. "Target their command ships first. Break their formations. Make them fear what comes next. The ship's massive railguns fired. A single round ripped through a Dominion battlecruiser, tearing it in half. Fires erupted from its shattered hull before it exploded into a cloud of debris. Vale and Merrick could barely process what they were seeing. "This isn't just a battle," Merrick whispered, eyes wide with shock. "This is a message," Vale finished. He gripped the railing, watching as human warships moved with terrifying coordination. They didn't fight like the Dominion, who relied on overwhelming numbers and brute force. No, the humans fought with strategy. Every movement was precise, every attack calculated. And the Dominion, they were panicking. One by one, Dominion warships fell. A dreadnought's shields collapsed under the focused fire of 5 human destroyers. A squadron of Dominion interceptors was lured into a trap, wiped out in seconds. The battlefield that was supposed to be their victory had become a graveyard. The Dominion command ship broadcasted an urgent message. "Reinforcements. We need reinforcements immediately." But the reply was static. Merrick smirked. No one's coming to save them. Because humanity had planned for this. While the Warhammer and its fleet fought on the front lines, another human fleet had silently moved into position, behind enemy lines, cutting off their escape. Now, the Dominion were trapped. Cole watched the screen as the Dominion forces realized the truth. Their admiral, once so confident, now looked around in desperation. "All ships," Cole ordered, voice calm. "Begin the final push." The Warhammer's engines roared, charging forward. Dominion ships tried to run, but there was nowhere left to go. One after another, Dominion warships fell. Explosions lit up the void. And then, silence. The Dominion fleet was gone. Vale couldn't believe it. They actually did it. Merrick exhaled slowly. The impossible. Cole turned from the screen. It's not over yet. Because this battle had done more than just win a war. It had sent a warning to the entire galaxy. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not afraid. And if you came for them, they would come for you. The battlefield was silent now. The wreckage of the Dominion fleet floated in space, broken and lifeless. Fires still burned in the shattered husks of warships, their once mighty presence reduced to nothing more than debris. The battle was over, but its consequences had only just begun. Captain Cole stood on the bridge of the UH's Warhammer, watching the remains of the enemy fleet. The crew was silent, still processing what had happened. They had faced an empire that had ruled through terror for centuries, and they had destroyed them. A transmission request appeared on the screen. It was from the Dominion's Central Command. Cole allowed himself a small smirk. Now, they wanted to talk. "Put it through," he ordered. The face of Supreme Overlord Krythos appeared, a creature of cold scales and calculating cruelty. But now, that cruelty was overshadowed by something else. Fear. "Human," Krythos said, his voice low and controlled, but the tension was clear. "We did not expect this outcome." Cole folded his arms. "No, you didn't." Krythos exhaled. "We underestimated your kind. That was a mistake." "Your first mistake," Cole corrected. "Your second was thinking you could get away with slaughtering innocents." His eyes hardened. "But your biggest mistake, thinking that humanity would just sit back and take it." Krythos flinched slightly. He had seen the recordings. He had watched as human warships tore through his forces. He had listened to the desperate screams of his officers before they were silenced forever. And now he understood. "Tell me, Captain," Krythos said carefully. "What are your terms?" Cole didn't hesitate. "You will withdraw all forces from occupied systems. You will release every species you have enslaved. You will stand down." Krythos' expression darkened. "And if we refuse?" Cole smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Then we come for you next." Silence. Krythos knew it wasn't a bluff. He had seen what humans were capable of. And for the first time in Dominion history, an overlord bowed his head. "It will be done," he said. The transmission ended. The Warhammer's crew erupted into cheers, but Cole simply exhaled, looking at the wreckage outside. The battle had been won, but this was just the beginning. The galaxy had changed today. The old order had been shattered, and now humanity had taken its place among the most feared species in existence. Vale and Merrick stood together, watching the view from the observation deck. The stars stretched before them, endless and waiting. "We won," Merrick whispered. Vale nodded, "but the real question is, what happens next?" Merrick smiled. "Whatever it is, the galaxy won't forget it." And deep in the shadows of space, across 1,000 worlds, eyes were watching, some in awe, some in terror, because they had all learned the truth. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. And when pushed to the edge, humanity would rise.